Good morning. Today we are continuing working on our probabilities. We are doing CO41. I can determine the theoretical probability of an event. So it's not just probability now. Now we're adding that word theoretical to it. So the theoretical probability is what should happen. So theoretically, this should be our result. It's not what actually happens, it's what should happen. So in order to do today's assignment, we get to actually follow through on some stuff. We are going to look at what would theoretically happen, and then we're going to do an experiment for us to use for tomorrow's objective, which would be experimental probability. So we're going to talk about theoretical probability today, what that means, and then we're going to do some experiments to help set us up for tomorrow's objective about experimental probability. So first thing we have to do is we have to go through all of the learning about theoretical probability. So let's say we are going to flip a coin. When we flip a coin, we're going to say how many times theoretically we should land on heads or land on tails. So if you flip a coin 50 times, how many times should you get heads? So think about it. You're flipping a coin 50 times. You could either get heads or you could get tails. Theoretically, you have a 50-50 chance of getting heads or getting tails. So if we're splitting it down the middle, theoretically you would flip heads 25 times. Now, how many students are in our math class? We have 24 students in pre-algebra this year. So we're going to use, everybody's using that number 24. Our next question says if each one of you flips a coin 50 times, how many total flips would that be? So in order to figure that out, we're going to do our 50 coin flips times 24 students. So 50 times 24 gets me 1,200 flips. Theoretically, how many times should a heads be flipped? Well, it's going to be just like if it was just you flipping 50 times, it was half, because you have half a chance, 1 out of 2 chance of flipping heads. So again, we have 1 out of 2 chance of flipping heads, so we need to divide it by that 2. So our whole class, if the whole class is flipping, 24 of us, we should flip heads 600 times, the whole class. So you're not flipping the coin that many times. You're going to be flipping a coin 50 times. And we're going to see what you get. Then we're going to, tomorrow, we're going to look at the whole class. And we're going to talk about theoretically and experimentally, do they match up? So that's with our coin flips. Let's look at the second part, which is rolling a die. So we're going to look back at the work you're going to do in just a minute, but right now let's look at the rest of our page. This time, experiment 2 is rolling a die. Theoretically, if you roll a die 120 times, if you alone roll 120 times, how many times should each number be rolled? So if you're rolling it 120 times and there are 6 numbers, we need to take that 120 and divide it by 6, because you have an equal chance of getting each of those numbers. So 120 divided by the 6 possible outcomes means 20 times you should roll a 1. 20 times you would roll a 2, 20 times you would roll a 3, and so on. So theoretically, you should roll each number on that dice 20 times. Now again, there are 24 students in our math class. So we're going to put a 24 up there. And if each one of you roll the dice 120 times. So that 120 times 24 students, that is 2,880 rolls to the dice. So 2,880 rolls to the dice. So now we need to think theoretically how many times should each number be rolled. So when we looked at if you were rolling it by yourself, we divided that 120 by 6. Now we look at 2,880 rolls, we divide it by 6, and we say every number should be rolled 480 times. So if we have 24 people rolling the dice, and we have 2,880 rolls, each number, the 1 would be rolled 480 by our class. The 2s would be rolled 480 times by the whole class. Thank goodness we don't have to roll our dice that many times. That would take forever. So theoretically, this is what should happen. But does what should happen always be what happens? If I flip my coin, am I always going to get heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails? No. Experimentally, it doesn't always happen that way. So theoretically, what we should see is not always what we do see. So we're going to go in our second part of today's objective of our lesson is we're going to actually perform the experiments. So I have a bag of quarters. You're going to get 1 quarter, and I have a bag of dice. You get 1 dice. Doesn't matter if it's a big dice or a little dice. It's got the same 6 numbers on it. So for the flipping a coin, you're going to get 1 quarter. You're going to flip that coin 50 times. And you are going to make a tally mark every time you flip a heads or you flip a tails. So you're going to be filling in, oops, I flipped a heads, so I'm going to put it here. Now I flipped a tails, I'm going to put a mark here. Flip it again, I get another heads. Flip it again, I get another heads. Oh, now I get a tails. Heads, heads. Oh, I got a tails, a tails. And you're going to keep doing that, making your groups of 5, so it's easy to count, because you have to go all the way to 50 flips. So you want to make sure that you are able to count how you're flipping. It's easy to count by 5s to make sure that we only flip that coin 50 times. We don't flip more than 50. We don't flip less than 50. Because if you only flip your coin 47 times, when we do our discussion on it tomorrow, it's going to mess up our numbers if you're not flipping it exactly 50 times and recording 50 marks. So make sure when you think you're done, count up how many heads you flip and how many tails you flip. Then to double check that you flipped correctly, you're going to add those 2 numbers together and it should equal 50. This is important. We want you to be at 50. If you're not at 50, if you're less than 50, flip it how many times you need to get to 50. If you're more than 50, then try to remember what your last couple of flips were to get you back down to that 50. We want our final answer to equal 50. Now, our question here says, compare your results to the theoretical probability. Are your results above, below, or equal to? So did you flip your heads more than 25 times, less than 25 times, or exactly 25? So you're gonna look at your heads and your tail count to see how you matched with it theoretically. Then you're going to use your dice, and you're going to roll that dice, and same thing, you're going to record which number you are rolling. This one, it really matters. We are rolling that dice 120 times. Really pay attention to how you're putting your marks on here, and make sure that you've got those groups of 5, because it will be easier to count when we have groups of 5. When you're all done, you're going to, what I would do is when I think I'm done, I'm going to write how many 1s did I roll, how many 2s did I roll, how many 3s did I roll, how many 4s did I roll, and then when you're done, your number should equal 120. If not, try to remember, if you're less than, roll it however many you need to get to 120. If you're more than 120, try to remember which your last few were to get you back down to that 120. So we are talking about theoretical probability, and then we are doing the experiment part that we are going to work with when we do experimental probability. So this is kind of a fun day where we get to do a little fun. I do ask that you remember to return your coin and your dice back to the bags so I have them to use for next year. It's really important that we don't sneak away with any of our coins or dice because I only have so many and we need to make sure that I have enough for my future years. When you are finished with this assignment, if you still have time, you can work on packet number 7 that is due next week Tuesday. I'm going to be making the video for that. It should be on the YouTube channel. If you are finished with packet number 7 and you've already turned it into the blue tray or been checked off for it, double check that you don't have any past due Khan Academy assignments. Remember, Thursday, tomorrow, is the last day to do those past due assignments or we get left with the score that we have. So make sure you get Khan Academy caught up. If you're all done with that, work on some Math Masters. Mr. Schultz is all caught up with going through his Math Masters paper. Give him some more work to do. Do some more Math Masters. See if we can start earning some more prizes. I hope you are well, and I will see you again tomorrow. If you have questions on this, make sure you ask a friend, ask the teacher, or check in with me tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.